Hi everyone and welcome to this week's TOOP TV. Now we're here at Air Apartments where you're going to see inside this magnificent sub-penthouse later in the show, so stay tuned for that. We also look at when buying a house, what it's like to have a building inspection, why you should do it and what's involved. Now don't forget, we're live and interactive, so get the calls running, send the emails in, and later in the show we'll answer those questions for you. Enjoy the show. You know, I still can't believe the quality of those Air Apartments. If you get half a chance and you're looking for absolutely top of the range property, go and have a look at the Air Apartments. And the Pickard family should be congratulated because it's a great legacy to Adelaide to sort that site out and have such a fabulous, fabulous development. Now, a couple of weeks and we're into spring. In fact, it's about 3 weeks away, and in spring, people just seem to kind of really go crazy about property. So make sure that you're ready for it, and to help you with that, preparing your home, we'll look into that shortly in the program. Now later for investors, those of you looking down at the Fleurieu or for investments in that sort of region, we've taken an excerpt out of last Friday's expo that TOOP+TOOP had down on the Fleurieu at Victor Harbour. It was a great event and it was well done, and this portion of it is about the investment, and it'll be good information for you to have a look at. Now the inside story on what first homeowners think about the reintroduction of the First Home Owners Grant. There's a lot of information been in the papers in the last week or so leading up to the election. So let's go and talk to them right now.
With the election just around the corner, the real estate industry is calling for the First Home Buyer Grant to be reintroduced. Recent Australian finance group figures show in South Australia sales of new mortgages fell 13.8% in July compared to June, the largest monthly fall of the mainland states. This statistic is also down 19.9% on July last year. Despite this, MPs aren't ready to commit to a renewed boost.
There is to and fro on this issue. There is some, obviously it adds an incentive, but some argue that it puts increased pressure on young people trying to access housing. And now we're of the view that we want to get as many people into houses as we can, so we'll look at any of those proposals and obviously make our announcements before the election.
However, members of the public are in favour of bringing back the First Homeowners Grant, not only to strengthen the property market, but the economy too.
To a point, I believe it is a good thing for the young ones to get out and have a go. It gets people up and away and out of the rental market.
I think that with the way house prices have gone up so much just recently, that it puts, the average house out of the reach of most people, and I think they give up on their dream of wanting to buy a house. So, yeah, bring it back.
If young people are buying new houses, well, middle-aged people are changing houses, and older people are upgrading or downgrading. So, yes, I think overall it's a good idea.
It would encourage all of those people out there that can't afford a house or are thinking about that to go ahead and do that.
Overall, July was an uncertain time in the market where confidence was down. Along with the upcoming election, an unpredictable stock market plus interest rate concerns all contributed to a drop in buyers.
It's going to be great to be out of the election mode where everyone seems to hibernate, and then straight into spring. So looking forward to that, and interesting to get those thoughts and feedback on the First Home Owners Grant. Now, speaking of business, a very dear friend of mine and a person I've spent 3 weeks riding around the Himalayas joins us today, and he's got his suit on, so he's in business mode. Philip Ely, and Philip is the MD of Plan 4 Financial Services located here in the city. Welcome, Philip.
Thanks, Anthony.
And how does it feel to be in a suit?
Well, a bit different from the last time I saw you as well, in the Himalayas, covered in dust, so it's good to be here.
Great stuff. Now, the real world, and that of particularly affecting people with properties, people with money and investing through turbulent times. Obviously, financial planning has become an incredibly important household event and something that's discussed a lot. How does financial planning and a financial planner fit into the world of residential real estate?
Well, I think typically in the past, financial planners have been precluded from recommending individual properties, and that's not really so much a fault of theirs as the manner in which they are required to give advice. So over 25 years, we found that, we see a lot of ups and downs in the marketplace. And one of the things that's a requirement of us is that we have to make sure that every bit of advice we give to a client is well researched. And it's really difficult. So when we talk about property, we tend to use things like listed property trusts. That gives us the capacity to ensure that a client has commercial real estate, industrial property, geographically spread. But those things are changing. I mean, as the real estate industry has gone through some increase in their professional standards, and as legislation has changed which now allows investors, for example, to borrow for their superannuation funds. So I think there's going to be a lot more close linkage between financial planning professionals and real estate professionals going forward from here.
Phil, how did you go in 08, the tail end, the last quarter of 08? The real estate industry had about 40% drop in transactions. It was just amazing how quickly it came on us. How did your clients fare during that period? And has there been any shift in their thinking since then?
Yeah, tough time, wasn't it? And is. Look, I think the washout from that's still going through the market, but certainly I know that, you know, I was around in 87 and saw that crash, and the 90 property crash, and the 94 bond crash, and, you know, the Asian crisis.
The tech wreck.
The tech wreck. You see all this stuff come and go, and we spent a lot of our time with the arm around the shoulder reassuring clients about where things are likely to go, and giving them some hopefully qualified advice. I guess the issue is not to panic, and if you have a well diversified portfolio, you should be able to ride through these turbulent periods, because after a period of time, it's emotion that drives markets down, but it's logic that brings them back. And so you'll start to see share markets rebound when the prices are historically cheap.
Phil, financial planning, can I just go into that space for a minute? If you go to a person like yourself, a financial planner, how does that, what can you expect as a person that's never been to one? And particularly if you own a number of residential properties, are you going to be talked into selling them, or what sort of advice would you give?
Yeah, the decision to sell a property is a fairly critical one. And I guess a lot of that depends on the client's perception of whether they've made a good gain on the property, whether they think that gain is going to likely to continue. It might depend upon their taxation position, their age, their proximity to retirement. Are there any more tax-effective methods of investing, for example, in allocated pensions via superannuation funds and that sort of thing? I think the important thing is that you have to look at all these things in total, and consider the diversification of property, and any decision to sell property is usually taken in conjunction with their accountant, their real estate advisor and the financial planner. It should be a team approach to that.
Now, Phil, in your industry like ours, it probably varies a little bit. I mean, I heard, and by the way, I don't want to embarrass you, but you were made a fellow of the Institute of a pretty big deal, wasn't it?
The FPA, the Financial Planning Association of Australia.
Now, from what I understand, that's a fairly big honour.
Yeah, well, there's probably about 12,000 planners in Australia, and I guess 20 or so fellows. So it's good recognition for us, for the business.
So how does someone pick a financial planner?
Well, I think the important thing, like any professional that you want to go and see, I think you need to make sure they've got the credentials. So that the credentials are CFP, Certified Financial Planner.
Yep.
Designates that that person has done a whole heap of study. They've got to have a proven track record in the industry, and so a CFP tag is really important. And obviously, from our perspective, a fellow of the FPA is a peer group recognition, which is something you can't buy, and it's something that's awarded. So we're very proud of that.
We'll come back to that in a moment and explore that a little bit further. Now, in the meantime, today's paper, there's the Royal Commission results into the bushfires in Victoria and South Australia's approach to that detail. Because of this, we're going to get and ask one of our previous guests, Brendan Eden, if he'll return and talk to us about the changes in the bushfire approach here in South Australia. And there are some potential implications for property owners, and we'll go into detail on that in the next few weeks before the summer and before the fire season. In the meantime, let's go and look at some property and go behind the blinds.